you will be talking about XSLTForms and XForms. Yes. So, thank you for listening. First of all, let's talk about XForms use. Well, XForms 2.0 is still in the draft mode, but you can look at the wiki about it. Main features from my point of view are XFast 2.0, which is much more powerful than XFast 1.0, of course. AVT, like in XSLT. JSON support for submissions, exchanges with servers, and possibly subforms. As you can see, all those features are in a more productive way for XForms. It's a mature version with constraints from industry, let's say. What is not in XForms 2.0, let's name it XForms 3.0. What about XQuery update facility as a script language? I think it's a very important point for XForms to be used widely with XML databases such as eXist-db. Okay. Well, there are still questions about XForms. At the W3C workgroup, we have questions internally. How to define user interface components. I would say that XBL was not very integrated elsewhere, so what to do for that? We need something like that. There is another problem about elements and attributes when they are not in the instance. Now, it's not easy to add them. What to do? If you want to have a control about an element which is not yet in the instance. So, why not a more important schema-driven approach? What to do if in a schema you have a max occurs attribute saying that just 4 elements have to be in that parent element. So what to do with a repeat? Should we block insert when we have limits? It's about consistency between the form and the schema. Should we have controls driven by the schema? It's already what we have naturally with date. You have an element, an attribute with an XSD date type, so you have automatically the calendar widget. It's not very much yet in XForms, but it's very interesting. And it could help to get a form more and more easily, with more and more consistency. Another question is about HTML5, and specifically HTML5 forms, because there are new controls with HTML5 forms, and they are not yet specified in XForms. We have to synchronize the specifications. Actually, there are many XForms implementations. Many already have some, or beyond, better form have such controls, but it's not in the XForm specifications. What about XSLTForms? XSLTForms 1.0 release candidate is almost ready. So what's in it? It will be closer to XForms 1.0 full support. There are still, let's say, controls missing about upload, for example, or range. Surprisingly, I would say that users and customers for XSLTForms are not actually very good about them. That's why they are not yet in XSLTForms. Performance improvements are important, because when you have a product such as an XForms implementation, users do what they want, and more and more and more, and always we have performance issues. But it has been very improved in this version of XSLTForms. There is also a profile. It's about the performance, of course, and a debugger integrated within XSLTForms. The specificity of it is that it's written in XForms, so it's possible to enhance it, to have it, to customize it, I would say. Subforms are also implemented in a very light way, because a subform is just included in the form without a new XForm engine. So it's very, very light and efficient. I would say that subforms are also very important, because when you write an application with XForms, you could be tempted to write just one form, because you have many treatments to do, and you need all your data and so on. So it's a problem, because with this approach you have a big form, bigger and bigger and bigger. Using subforms allow you to have small part of forms being inserted, loaded and unloaded, but with the same instances. About extra widgets, which text editors are required in many applications, and well, the first integrated in XSLTForms is TinyMCE. XSLT transformation as a function. It's also, of course, very powerful. So, yes, actually for XSLTForms 1.0, it will be just XSLT 1.0, because it will be using the browser own engine. Maybe you can also recognize it. It's a processing instruction. It's a new way to call a form, because you just have to add this processing instruction into the XML data. Then the XSLTForms will automatically get the data into the form. You don't have to do it at server side before sending it to the client. I use it a lot, because it's very nice for cache and so on. So now I would like to ask you questions, because there are many possibilities for XSLTForms or XForms too. And because XSLTForms is a very versatile product, it's not always, I would say, difficult to add new functionalities. The first point is quite specific for eXist-db. It's a problem that first users of XSLTForms with eXist-db faced about the indent mode. Because XSLTForms is based on a processing instruction to indicate that XSLT style sheet has to be applied to the form, and because in eXist-db the indent mode is true by default. So my first question for you, is it still a problem for you to have to configure differently eXist-db just to be sure that indent mode is false for XSLTForms? There are solutions on wiki. It's not difficult, just time guide to improve this. Okay, that's okay. Not yet for answers.
Maybe a question then. What's the problem of having it in them?
Oh, it's just an optimization problem, because XSLTForms is using the DOM API to look at elements and so on. With indent mode at true, there are more and more elements, let's say not elements but text nodes, and so the HTML page is bigger, and it might also be a problem with, I would say, JavaScript instructions which expect exactly the element as the first child and so on. In the last, in XSLTForms 1.0, the children method is property, is used, so it might work already. I haven't tested it yet. Well, I was talking about XQuery for actions and XForms, but there are also XProc in browsers. Why? Why not? Shouldn't be very difficult to implement it also with JavaScript. I wouldn't say it would be fast. No. Anyway, if it's easier for you to develop with XProc support, why not? Another question is about search engines. Some users for XSLTForms have this problem about if you use an output control for title, for example, if it is not resolved at server side, well, the search engine won't be able to locate it, they won't see it, so okay, you won't find it with Google or any other engine. To do so, it's necessary to have a server treatment, maybe just for simple output controls, but yeah, is it a problem for you today? Do you have public web applications which require such possibility? What about mobile phones? Do we have applications with mobile phones? If so, well, optimization is more and more important with them. So I'm interested in knowing if there is a problem with this phone, with this browser for in the phone. Actually, I know that Android doesn't support yet XSLT, but with the Chrome beta will for Android. So usually it works already, XSLTForms with Debugger, even if the XSLT style sheet is applied at client side. What about CSS possibilities? It's not very developed in XSLTForms. What about valid, required, and anything that you would like to have for styling more easily? JavaScript frameworks are heavily used, as you know, and for now, XSLTForms is not using one. It's a principle because there are conflicting frameworks, and XSLTForms is free on that now. But once you need some specific treatment with control, well designed and so on, how to do that? We're thinking about that at W3C work group, how to specify something. For TinyMCE, I have used a schema approach. You have to define a type where you can specify the parameters for the rich text editor. I think that soon jQuery integration will be available with XSLTForms. A more generic question is about repetitive processing. If you have anything that is repetitive, you have to remember that XSLTForms is based on XSLT. So it's quite easy to get something more iteratively. Okay, so last slide is about new expectations. Again, XSLTForms is a client-side implementation. If you look at the source, usually you'll see the XForms page. If you use a debugger, if you have performed the XSLT style sheet transformation at server side and look at the source in the browser with a debugger, you will be able to see XPath expressions to decode quite easily actions. Is it now a problem for you? Well, it depends. For debugging, it's quite nice. But for real application, wide application, if you want to obfuscate it, it's not that difficult, especially for XPath expressions. But you won't get debug information this way, or it will be more difficult. What about server-side validation? Yes, you have a form which is validated at client side, so you send the instance at the server side and you want to validate it again. Difficult. But if you have constraints in the form which are not in the schema, how to be sure that they are still okay? The possibility with XSLTForms would be to apply again a specific style sheet generated from the form, and you will get the response okay, not okay. Would you need? There is a profiler just to get performance information about heavy expressions mainly, because using / is not a good idea, for example. But you might have other ideas. Why is this form loading so slowly? Looking at the profiler, already you can see that, well, it has performed this and this and this. Oh, this one is bigger. Why? It's very useful. For debugger, would you know an X-class evaluator, for example? What would you need? Would you need to have breakpoints? Would you need to see events? It's possible. So, yes, I was already talking about that. Developer mode, RunTime mode. Would you like to have both modes? So, yes, you can debug, you can see why it doesn't work as you expected, and then in production, okay, RunTime with compressed files, with anything you would like to have, because you won't debug into RunTime. Well, another interesting idea is about the test runner. How to run tests for application with XForms and eXist-db. How to do that automatically? Well, why not adding specific actions, or I'd say specific scripts, to automatically run tests. Adam was talking about security manager, single sign-on is interesting also. And the last point, what about SVG? Because SVG would be a host language for XForms too. Are you interested in SVG and XForms? Many questions. Okay. So, do you have answers?
Yes, the last one.
I have another question. If you're talking about validation, why didn't you mention schema-driven? Is it on purpose? I'm not familiar with XSLTForms, so perhaps I'm asking something to that. But I use it a lot for validation.
Okay, it's interesting, yeah. Yeah. Why not? Good idea.
Maybe in the same way you can use the MVDR. You can validate with schema-driven, with Relax and JDTD all together to make us schema.
Okay. Well.
But SVG works already in XSLT, doesn't it? In XSLTForms.
Yes, but not as a host language.
Just the host language, but does that matter?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Because the main element for the style sheet is HTML now. So if you want to mix SVG and XML, it doesn't work yet for XSLT. Okay. Thank you.
Another one.
Please.
First of all, we did one large large application of XSLTForms, and in the end it really worked quite well. So what I'm working at right now as well is in eXist we're trying to move all those examples we have into separate packages so they are also more visible. I will demonstrate that in the afternoon. And it would be great if we could also have a separate package for XSLTForms with some examples for users to get started. Because the problem with eXist, I think, right now is that the hurdle to get into XForms is still quite high. That applies to XSLTForms and to better forms as well. So you have to do certain, well, it's actually easy if you know how, but it's not immediately visible. And I'd like to improve that and just show users how to quickly set up an XForms project or XSLTForms or better form with a single click. So it would be great if we could move all those XSLTForms dependent stuff into a package and deploy it via just new package manager. So that's the first thing. And then there was another problem I remember with importing CSS. So there was this little trick that the CSS had to be generated by an XQuery or something like that.
Well, to support the extra CSS properties, mainly about the XForms namespace with CSS, because it's passed with XSLT sheet, a document element is required.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't. And there is no way to get around that. So the limitation of
because it's XSLT1.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. The next speaker will be Alain Couthures. He's coming down.